The world won't understand you. Hey, but it's okay. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you in my own way. Said the world won't understand you. Cause I made you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 76 of In a Good Way podcast. Today's special guest is Keshia Santero. Keshia is a, hello, Keshia. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
It's an honor. Keshia is a spiritual teacher, energy healer, a spiritual seer, speaker, musician, writer, and an artist. She specializes in empowering souls through energy healing, coaching, and spiritual guidance, right? So thank you again for being here, Keshia.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Absolutely. So am I. It's an honor. So, I always like to start in the beginning, just so people get an idea, kind of your journey. So, obviously, you're very tapped in spiritually. So when you were little, were you already experiencing things, or did this evolve later on in life?
It's interesting, because when I go back to my childhood, I have very sparse memories, to where it's kind of blank. And so and that's the fascinating part, because when I look back now and as more has come to me, I realize that I was very connected. Telepathy, since early childhood and many other things. But that I didn't have that like awareness, if you will. So when I started having other type of experiences later in life, I didn't really understand what was happening.
Oh. And were you already vocalizing that to your family? Like, were you telling anybody, like, hey, I'm experiencing these things that are kind of crazy? Or
Okay, so I'll give a little backstory. So through like junior high, high school, I had a lot of anxiety and depression. When I left for college, I I had great swings of depression. That become I was highly functioning initially, like in high school, but when I got to college, I'd have like a semester where I just tanked, didn't get out of bed. I only got out to go out and, party and stuff like that. Um, and then I'd be put on academic probation. And then the next semester, I'd pull it together, that high functioning, because I had to. And I'd get things back, and then it'd just kind of be like a snowball of that. And so it's interesting. And now in that time, I see that um, aside from the high anxiety and depression, that I had like a fear of being alone, and kind of like a codependency in the sense that if there was a night that there wasn't a party or something going on, like I'd get like the anxiety, panic attacks. Um, Even in the sense of just feeling not included if I didn't get a text about something, it very a lot of internal stuff, and I didn't understand that at that time. And so then that was back like 10 plus years. I moved back into my hometown about 2012. And after so in college, I had like my first love relationship, if you will, and that um, was a beautiful tragedy, if you will. So I was very heartbroken, and I lost myself in that relationship, and I started thinking that I was toxic and all this stuff. So I got deep into the party scene at home, and at home, there was a lot of drug use as well. And so I started, playing around with that. And then I, met some friends and such, and got into something I thought I'd never do based on, family history. And I became addicted to meth.
Oh, wow.
And at the time, it's interesting. So my friends, that I was at that time, introduced it to me as crack, and I was already doing cocaine. And they told me, well, my best friend I was living with at the moment, she's like, it's just like man-made coke. So I said, okay. And as I'm doing it, I literally said to myself, at least it's not meth, you know. And so for like 8 months, her, the guy, a guy I, had been talking with, and the crowd we hung out with, just kind of let that all play out, and I thought I was doing crack the whole time.
Mm.
So I started having experiences during this stretch when, and it started with me just hearing whispers and stuff in the night, and um, that's when I started sensing energy quite a bit. When I look back now, I realize how I've been intuitive in reading energy quite, most of my life. But in that unhealed stage, you think it's you and you doubt yourself and stuff. And this guy at the time, and I'm getting goosebumps, he um there was a point when I was noticing a lot of things and his behaviors and things, and I even asked him something, and he sat there and he told me, "You're smoking too much, you're crazy." And that is when I really just like cracked, if you will, um, and thought that I was kind of imagining it all, and yet there was so much. And I find when I share this, I tend to get vague, but it is such in depth that so um but here, so I started having experiences of hearing things, kind of sensing things. Had a fallout with this friend. We were supposed to get a new place. She was acting weird, and um, I didn't like the energy. I couldn't be around that, so I backed out of that. And actually resulted in me getting somewhat locked out and all my things stolen,
Mm.
which was so tragic for me because I had such a thing about materials and belongings. And I realize now that is kind of how like past life stuff um coming to fruition again, how history tends to repeats itself, till it's healed, even from life to life. So then yeah, then I started feeling quite delusional. Well, I wasn't feeling quite delusional. I was very sure in myself, feeling I
Mm.
was being followed, doing license plates, all this stuff. Um,
Oh wow.
And so, yeah, and I was recognizing the people following me. There was one instance when I was in my first semester of nursing school, and I felt like someone was following me. And this school is all the way on the like outer side of the town, where that's the only thing there in that parking lot. And this car pulled in after me, but like across the parking lot. So I sat there before I went in and watched. And this woman just like kind of sat there, got out, like stood there, looked around, kind of kicked her tire like she was doing something, and then got back in and drove away. And so it's those things, like, and when I look back, I know intuitively on some timeline, something I was reading it. Um, so yeah, a lot of that stuff. I feel like I'm jumping around.
No, no, no. I'm
Um,
fine. I understand perfectly. Let me just tell you this real quick because see, that's one of the things that made me be 100% sober was that even that I would have friends that were on meth and they would tell me these things and I knew they were saying the truth, but it was like no one was in there ever gonna believe them because they knew they were that got far gone. You know what I mean? The stories I was like, oh wow, I experienced that. So I got them and I would listen to them, but then I knew so that I was that prideful that I was like, I'll be damned if anyone says, oh, well, you're drinking too much, or oh, you're this, or you did that. So that's what made me 100%. As I was having more and more spiritual experiences, I was like, I know what's happening to me, and on purpose, I'm gonna make sure. There was even a time when I even stopped drinking coffee, just so no one could say nothing altered me at all. No coffee, no cigarettes, no nothing, just for that. So I'm following along, just to say that. So go ahead, please.
yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll fast track a little bit. I was at my next place where I was living by myself, and I started hearing this guy and my former friend, and like seeing shadows around and like hearing them sneaking around and stuff. And I had this thing that she was like living in the upstairs, but I kept feeling like picked on, like they were, surrounding me, watching me and stuff. Like they always knew what I was thinking, what I was doing. And it's like, it was really frustrating. At first it was exciting because I was like, oh, this is some like spy movie type, plot. It's so exciting. And I thought I was like, on it. And then I couldn't figure it out. So one time I asked my parents, I finally went to them and well, actually then I was like, hey, people are messing with me and I can't figure out how or who. So bless their hearts, they one night, or like a night or two, like went down the block with their binoculars and was watching my apartment. And like the whole night I was being messed with. And they're like, we didn't see anybody. I was
Mm.
like, no, 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 no. Like it was happening. So that's when I really was like, what? Like this isn't fun anymore. It's not some exciting movie. Like I don't get it. Um, and I was still using it at this time. And still thinking I didn't know I was using meth either. And it got to a point when yeah, and yeah, right? Like throw that in there. Um and so it got to a point. It was actually Halloween night. I was supposed to go out with my friend and I was getting ready and everything was whatever. And then all of a sudden I started like hearing people around and stuff, like almost as though, and it was him and his roommates that I knew. Um, and it sounded like they were like messing outside my apartment, like badgering me, all this stuff. And then next thing I know, there's this moment when I'm like it's like I was in my bathroom when this happened, but he's inside my apartment. We're fighting over a bag. Like I have a hold of it, he does, and it spills open all over the floor. And then next thing I like come to and I'm like, what just happened? Like I haven't been talking to him, like any of that. And but I look on the ground and there's like these chunks of things that weren't there, like all over the ground. And it wasn't meth like it looked like in the vision, but it was almost like little crystals, but like rubberized, like hot glue chunks.
Mm.
So, and they weren't there before. And so it was like some kind of it, I'm getting tingles, but like timeline, dimension, whatever, but it happened. And so, I mean, it was all these times, all these instances, their spirit was like screaming at me. There's so much proof in the pudding, if you will, for me to, well, I'll get there later on, but, and so, then my friend who was supposed to be going out with showed up, and when she walked in, I heard her outside talking to these guys, like, "Hey, hey, does Keisha know you're here?" No. Oh, okay. She come in, and I said, "Hey, did you talk to so and so?" She goes, "No, like no one was out there." So I thought she was lying, and so I was always hearing these things, and so forth, and so it just got me on this very paranoid, and that was like the kick of kind of like my really falling apart. That was like my psychotic break, I called it.
Mm.
And so from then it just seemed even like grander. What I get now is that I'm very multidimensional in the sense that I can experience visually, hear, feel, and such of things taking place in other dimensions or timelines, if you will. Um, and so then it just kind of tumbles and snowballs, to where I really become like a shell of myself. I'm so like frozen in like paranoia and fear and all this, to where I like staying at my parents. I'm not even staying at my apartment. And one night my mom asked if she could take me to the hospital because she's worried about me. So that was my first time being entered onto the fifth floor for suicide watch.
Mm.
And actually, there was a time before that. I think this was in like November. Um, because that was okay, Halloween, and then November went to the doctor, family doctor, and she was asking me all these questions and giving me this questionnaire, and it was like, oh, you're using meth. And then here I'm frozen like meth, like what? Like, am I like, and doing the questionnaire, and all the voices are like, you are, like, you have been. So I like marked it and I'm like, have I been? And that really was like the time when I was like, oh, okay. And so, and of course, because it was meth, that's what people presumed that, like, um, and so it was a Christmas time when I ended up on the fifth floor for that. And then that's when it led to a series of diagnoses and further into that landed on like schizoaffective disorder.
Mm.
And so with that diagnosis, I started Googling it, that stuff, told that I had like a chemical imbalance in my brain, medications, which either made me gain a bunch of weight or be so like zombie that I couldn't even remember things and stuff. And so it was interesting, and the whole time I was still getting things about like these experiences, and I felt like I was being preyed upon, and it was really dark. And seeing things like horrific, like horror movie type scenes of, and hearing them about my family and stuff like this, and so that that was really, um, I don't even have the words for it. That was very hard. And so that was like a dark space in my life that it took a lot. There's a saying that came to me at the time, well, since then, and it says, "How long do you need to stay in the dark?" They said, "Until you can see."
Mm.
And so I see this as part of my like my rite of passage, my initiation. Um, and so there were moments in there when I um would do a lot of Googling, researching, I was always seeking, because I didn't, I'm getting goosebumps. The diagnosis, like, it didn't fit. I'd watch like simulations of other people, like on YouTube, and like read other people's stories, and mine just didn't quite. And I really like played detective, and like I didn't just like sit there, but I, like leave papers the right way and always like do things like this to see if people, like, because I felt like people were always around and breaking into my spots and stuff like that. And I'd like wake up and have like random pictures on my phone. I'd have like all these things that you cannot explain, but yet were happening, and signs, and like seeing things and things moving and all this stuff, to where like there was a moment when I said, okay, like this is this, but then it was so dark, and like I was fearful of it, that I didn't want to like admit that was truth, because I only was seeing the darkness at the time. So what I went back and tried to I guess live my life and pretend that I, had schizoaffective disorder, if you will. And that didn't sit right with me. Like my solar plexus, my gut was always like contracted. Um and I'd even sit there and like when I talk in my head, like the voices, and they'd say that she still thinks she's crazy. Um and
Mm.
so there got to be a point when oh, I guess what was the point? Through all that, some, if you will, forced sobriety, through legal matters, and with that stretch, I did notice a big difference. And yet after that, there's still a part of me that went back to using, and I've always asked myself, like, what, like, why? And that has to do with like trauma stuff to heal, but this idea of like deep-seated self-sabotage, if you will, or self-punishment. Um, and so I feel like I got quite off track.
No, no, you're good.
So yeah, I go through cycles in this whole era, and it's interesting because now I relate it almost to like the seasons.
Mm.
It'd be where the voice, I say voices, but telepathy, clairaudient type communications of that around me. Um, and so I'd start hearing it more, and it'd be where I could just drown it out. And at this time, I was scared of the dark, scared of being alone, and scared of silence. So I always had music going, always distracting myself, always around people. And the people I was around, the few left that I wouldn't even say trusted, but that I was comfortable being around, did not serve me. They, all that stuff. And so, um, in this space, where was I at? Um, uh,
Well, let me ask you this: while you, unless you already, right, if,
go for it now. I'm
while you get
blanking.
your train of thought. No, no, because so do you feel because of that it gave access? Because clearly, see, you already had your psychic gifts, but because I always had that clear thing, like the darkness or these dark entities didn't want to like hurt me. It was more like they wanted to use me. They wanted me to basically, work for them, basically, like be, that kind of stuff. So the same, like the worst things I ever seen that were like out of a horror movie was when I was involved with someone that did meth, and I would pray for them. And in these visions, it was like if we were fighting over their soul, but like the demons would always win because they made it clear, like this person kept inviting them back in. So it's like the free will thing. Like there's nothing I could do. But I was still like, I don't know, maybe that was my ego. Like, no, like, cause even in one, right, it was like I had this angel with me that was like 4 or 5 stories high. And then it was like the demons that were like over her, like 2 of them as tall as the angel I had. And then my angel chops them to pieces. And I'm like, yeah, we saved her, you know, and then like they come back together, and then they chop up my angel to pieces. And I turn and I run. There's like a light over there. That's the door. And I'm just running. And then, boom, I wake up and I'm like staring right at her. And I'm like, oh, shoot. I was like, what the hell do you have inside of you? You know? So it was crazy. But no, and even once it was crazy because we actually broke up one of the 100 times that we broke up because it was like, she had, because I was, luckily because she was having the same kind of things, right? I told her like, no, like this is real. That's when my gifts evolved because I was able to tell her and she didn't look at me like I was crazy. And I knew she was experiencing things and I didn't know she was using yet, right? Till after. But one day she told me she dreamed of me with this girl. And the girl was kind of like a chola girl, right? Like a gangster type girl. I was like, I don't even like those kind of girls, right? Like I was like, and she's like, no, but you told me to trust the dreams. You told me to trust the dreams. I was like, yeah, but it hasn't happened. You know, like I didn't hook up with no freaking chola. Like I don't even like it. You know, that's not my cup of tea, right? So we split up. And like probably almost 2 months later, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to start going out. Like, you know, that's done. And here I am with this girl at a bar. And I don't know what, I said some joke and she's, well, that's when I was like, what? So she was really in a gang when she was young. So it did come true. But see, it came true because she didn't believe me. And she was like, oh, no, she didn't want to believe me. And she's like, no, you said the dreams were true. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know why that's what was weird. I was like, what put that in her head that forced that? And then it became true because of that. You know what I mean? So I always felt like there were the gifts are still there and all that substance does enhance it even. But it's almost like if it's, I don't know if it's a lower vibration or it's still psychic stuff and they even help you, but it's more like in a different way. I don't know if that makes sense. Or I don't know if you felt that similar experience or you felt something completely different.
See, and what that makes me think of like the whole spirit doesn't tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
Mm.
And sometimes like they'll tell me one thing, but it's like actually the complete opposite of what it actually was. And it's just like get me like to the point or the direction, like the path of least resistance, you know?
Mm.
And so that's kind of what I pick up on when you share that. But as far as like opening the door, if you will, I actually like during my research and stuff, you know, talked a lot about third eye and people claiming that opening your third eye was like opening like the door to it was like experiencing demons and stuff and all this stuff. So when I would get like drawn to parts of spirituality, I'd shut them down for fear. I was already experiencing what I believed to be demons. A friend was hearing the same things as me, and that was the first like validation I ever had on my experiences. And he told me they were demons. So I very much felt as though like you know, using opened the door to what I said, like the devil, you know, figuratively in whatever way. So I very much, yeah. And in these experiences, in these like low points, there was that part of me, the inner part of me that knew like if there's this much darkness, there's light as well. And that light is always what kept me pushing forward and seeking. And so, um, very, very much.
So how do you feel then? You feel that it's something different then? You don't feel that it's like oh yeah, because I don't agree with that about the third eye takes you
Oh,
into because even now, right? Like now that I'm channeling more and more, like just the other day, right? It's validated times a million for me. Like I don't got no doubt to nothing no more. Like the other day I was talking to somebody and someone's dad came through and I just said it. I was like, oh, there's this man and he's doing this and da-da-da. And like I was in a group and they were like, "Oh, that's my dad." We were like in a meditation, and then I just said, "Oh, did anyone see any?" I was like, "Wow, this man came through and blah blah blah." And then they were like, this woman was like, "That's my dad," and I was like, "Oh, you know," and she even ran to get a picture, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "That's amazing," you know, like so. I don't doubt it, right? Like it's been verified now when I see like these people, and it's not scary at all. And that's what I'm like blown away that my whole life, and I don't know if it was the society thing, right? Like, or you know, kind of the religious thing. Not to say anything negative about them, but yeah, I mean, obviously they put it all in your head that all this is the work of the devil and that. So it's not scary at all for me. And see, and like I said, I guess I brought that up to say like that's really the only times in my life was when, because I seen an even scarier. Oh, I don't know why there was an echo real quick. Oh, there was even a scarier demon thing that I seen when I was involved with somebody else, and after I think I found out certain things, so it made sense. So it's only been like when someone's involved, because that wasn't even me. It was like someone that I connected my energy with was involved with stuff, so I was able to pick up on that, and you know, and whatever. So that's been the only times that I've seen those horrifying things, like how you said, out of a horror movie kind of thing. But other than that, like, it's not scary at all, right? The psychic stuff isn't scary. Just when I first started hearing the voices, like you said, like, yeah, I would be laying in my bed, so you get scared, like, wait, am I going nuts? Like shut this off, you know, like a woman's voice, a man's voice, something, you know. So I don't know, but yeah, no, okay, but I don't want to. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, just to clarify, so it's not that like the spiritual part in my experiences where like is some like scary or something to fear, you know? But that the way, so for me, okay, energy under even when I got that read that about the third eye, I didn't understand what a third eye was or chakras. I wasn't, you know, didn't have the belief or understanding or even heard of the concept that we are energy and about vibrations and such. And so and I wasn't really doing it from a perspective of like Christianity, like, you know, God, demons, devils. I just knew like by the feeling of it that it was a dark place for me. And so understanding when I came to the understanding, I got a download actually, and it said this is spiritual. And I was just like, oh, okay. So then I started doing all my, you know, YouTube. Actually, I learned so much from um there were a few specific tarot readers that Spirit brought to me, and I actually learned so much from them. And I and what I loved about them is that they didn't read cards upside down. They were only positive. And so what I really started surrounding myself with was all positive things. Um but understanding the energy part of it and like that we are energy and about vibration. So my vibration was low. And because my vibration was low, the whole opening the doorway thing, if you're at low, you like experience that which is the vibration of you are, you know. And then there's like the whole free will thing, like you if you even like in conversation with someone, if you choose to respond to them, you are accepting and like creating an energetic like back and forth from them, you know? Does that make sense? So
Absolutely.
that's how I view like free will. So yeah, so when it as far as the experiences, I feel mine were really tailored to like my fears subconsciously, other lives and stuff like that that were still considered like wounds within me. And there were parts of myself that and things that were like surfacing and coming to me. It was like I didn't even realize that it was me, like my fears, because I didn't even see myself like that. So it really was like the buried and rejected parts of myself that I didn't understand. Like I didn't understand the concept of like mirroring and projection. And that came later. But in this point, is really just like all that was really coming around was like of me in a sense, like if that makes sense. So, you know, when I quit using and started surrounding myself with positive, raising my vibration, doing the healing work, when you get to a high vibration, like these vibrations can't, like it's not, you know, it's like the battery that like repels itself. They don't, and they're just kind of balanced. And from where I'm at now, I see how all this here was such a learning process, and really but so like energetic hygiene, understanding the sense of how we, if you will, like the term soul ties, how sex is quite a sacred act, and not understanding how the energy part of that and all these other things. So energetic hygiene, clearing, cleansing, like doing your protecting, which might sound like, oh my gosh, like, but it's really just like, for me, I say, um, I'm cleansed and disconnected from all that may drain me. I'm shielded from all that does not serve me. I'm safe, protected, whole. All that is connected to me shall be prosperous. Um, and so, yeah, like raising my vibration is really all that it was. And in doing so, and the energetic hygiene, which I practice daily, and continuing healing, um, understanding the concept of like power and my power and being in it. And like we are powerful beings. My belief is that we are extensions of source energy. Um, and therefore, like I in my power, nothing can hurt me, nothing can affect me in that. And that's where the free will comes from. Anything that, is from your choice of allowing that to, because in your power nothing is able to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, no. To me, the one, and look at, like, see, because my brain never really stops kind of working or thinking, right? So it's like I see almost like so anything you say will make sense because I probably in some form or another, what about this? What about this? What about this? So even that, like, let's say these demons, clearly, if all this is created by us, then clearly we would have created something that lets us know when we're not going in the right direction. So obviously we would create, what better to get our attention than, oh, I'm seeing these demons. Okay, so even let's say I would never see it like, oh, it's just a figment of my imagination, or oh, it's because you have this religious background or something. It's like, hey, wouldn't we, like, when we play a video game, we put bad guys, that's what I see, that here on Earth, we make ourselves, I think, on a smaller scale, what's really happening on a bigger scale. You know what I mean? Like, we make video games and movies that kind of, but it's just in shorter form, right? Because we sometimes can't see everything, right? We can't step back and see the whole Earth, boom, see the whole universe, boom, see beyond that and beyond that and beyond that. House, like, so we do try here to be like gods because we want to so badly understand what's happening in this experience, right? So even that, of course, why wouldn't we create into this place like demons to let us know, hey, you're like way over there, like it's time to, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So it all makes sense to me. Like that's what I would think. So, just, yeah. Now I don't know where now my brain kind of just spaced out. So.
I think is it the concept of like duality or polarity, where they're like, we're like opposites. It reminds me of in the Matrix, Neo and is it like Mr. Anderson, how they're actually like the like polar opposites of each other, and like that's like the balance of things, the light and dark. It's not that like this is good and everything that's not this is evil. It's just balance. And another thing that comes to me is like, so I view a concept that comes to me frequently is about, rather like, okay, so without space and time, everything is already happening everywhere right now.
Yeah.
Like past lives is like now and such. And so I just look at things like everyone says now is all there is. So I like the moment of now, I look at it as like a pixel. Or if you want to think of like the old school like film reels. And so while in sense of timelines and how we like create our own reality, like, because I want to, how some people talk about they're like, I don't know, I'll just say it, demon hunters and like exorcisms, and other people are like doing all these things, and you hear it all, and then it's like, what, like, I don't want that as part of my reality, and like it can create like different, the thing is like it's all existing type thing, but for me, creating my reality is like I can be on this pixel on this one, and other people can be on this pixel, but yet we're all here like in the same room, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I like to look at it. And also with the like infinite, limitless potential of how like it gets me out of the linear thinking of like I got to do this to get here, but that I can go here and in here I can go here, 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 even back here, and then forward here, and then here. Um, so yeah, this is kind of fun stuff. Been playing
Yeah.
a lot more around with that in time lately. So
Oh, okay. So, wow. Yeah, I know we jump forward a lot, but okay,
yeah.
let's see if I could backtrack a little to where, you know, how you said you were experiencing all this stuff, and then so at one point what did you already say about when you decided to get clean or not, or we didn't really get to that?
I haven't gotten to that.
Okay, well I guess let's talk about that.
Okay. So it was and there was a little bit leading up to this. I went from using meth to like a form of opiates,
No.
and from and that led to physical withdrawal, and so it started to get to a place where um I was so consumed with that, and I had never experienced that kind of withdrawal before, to where one day I was radically honest with myself, and I just said that like this sucks and I want more. Because
Mm,
before, with everything going on, I would I masked quite a bit. I didn't really share with people, anyone, and I never wanted. I don't know. I just people didn't really understand what was going on with me. I didn't share. I didn't express it, and I held all that in. And so that made me feel even more isolated and alone. So I got to where I was radically honest. Because my life was very like lackluster. I was all consumed with using, yet suffering from physical withdrawal, and I didn't have quality relationships. The relationships I had were self-serving. Um, just distrustful, very manipulative, and so I wanted love. I wanted, light. I wanted to be alive, and so there's this course of things, but so I was radically honest, and it got to where I became in one of my cycles, if you will, and it was May of 2022, I believe. Um, there was this whole thing. Um, I had like finally I was called to like the dark, and I shut off my lamp, and I like went to this area of my room that was calling me, and it was like this whole thing. Um, and then oh gosh, this is like it's a whole thing. So we can backtrack if you want to, but I'll finish this part. So yeah, I ended up was like leaving. I actually was like leaving to go home, in the sense and I ended up in a car accident. And I realized at this time I was either like in sync or picking up on another timeline or type thing, like, and it was where I was an alien, and I was either chasing, trying to escape, or my plane had, or my like spaceship craft had crashed. Um, because I got into a wreck, um, which has come to me now as being a near death experience.
mm,
And so, um, because when I went, okay, I was going like I was flooring it, even though my car was not saying it, and I was looking at the sign, and I had this like intuitive thing that I needed to like cross over and go back over to go up. Oh, that kind of that something just clicked for me there. So I'm like gunning it, and I go across the highway and back, and before I go back, I check the lane. It was clear. I go, and then all of a sudden, my car is just like slamming shut, and I'm like, ah, what's going on? Like, I don't. This isn't supposed to happen. I was supposed to be like up in space right now, like, um, and so EMTs, all that there. And all of a sudden the sign that like I went this way, so like to the right back onto, and yet the sign got stuck in my like one part, but it had yellow on it, and it was a pure white sign before.
Mm.
And at that time, they also had told me, like, throughout this process that there was like another vehicle that had to swerve over type of a thing. And he was okay, thankfully. But that wasn't there before. So it was like a total like timeline shift, or like a move in my player thing, if you will. Um, so yeah, after that, I came back and it was very hi okay. I'm getting a little off track, but I came
No, no,
back
you're.
and
Were
at that
you
moment,
were you sober during this experience, or you were?
um, I mean, I think I'd use in the morning.
Oh,
And I ended up getting like some charges from this. Um, and so yeah, the interesting thing is like when they came, my windshield had some cracks. My seatbelt had been undone. My whole driver's side door had been just smashed to pieces. And I had like, he was holding my head and stuff, and they were asking me questions, and they said, "Oh, like, where's she hurt and stuff?" Because I had blood like on my shorts and stuff, and they said, "Oh, that's not hers. That's," and they didn't finish it. And so all this hospital come back, and I felt really like, I don't know, just not happy because I was so excited. I was, going home, blah 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 blah, and then here I am. And then it was either like later that day or a day or so later, I was laying in my bed and I just started having blood like drip on my arm. And I'm just like, and at this time, like that didn't surprise me because I'd been experiencing this kind of stuff for, like years. Um, so there's that whole thing. But I kind of get like, in some sense, a walk-in. I don't feel I'm like a completely different spirit, but like walk-in whatever sense has been giving to me since then. Because since that point, that was May 19th, and about 2 months later is when I quit using, and I've been on like a rapid transformational, like the intensive part of my conscious healing journey since that time.
mm. And so if you wanna, because I've heard about walk-ins is probably one of the more on the new side of all the spiritual things that I've heard, right? But I think I've probably even had a guest talk about it before. But do you mind sharing that just for anybody that's not really sure what a walk-in is?
um, okay, so my understanding, or okay, I feel like a walk-in to me is really like someone passes or like dies, and rather than like, coming back or, staying, that a whole nother spirit comes in their place. But I don't feel that with me. And so see, because at first I'm like, is it ego that I'm just like, I've done all this work, I don't want to say, it's someone else, but
Oh,
I don't feel that within. So it really has me curious, but that is like the concept my mind has when I think of it. And so that's where I think there's some maybe part of disconnect. But um and I don't like to say the word but because it's contradicting. Since that moment, like my life has just been, so I'm kind of curious if there's like, another aspect of me or like a future aspect of me that came back. So it like still me in a sense rather than like a completely different soul. It's interesting.
yeah. Well, it's all interesting, everything, you know what I mean? So, like, like when you were talking about the multi-dimensional thing, like I've experienced that a lot. Well, last night I had a crazy dream, and when I woke up, it was like I was still in that mindset because that's how real. And then I was like, I hope that's an alternate reality, right? Like I hope it's just an alternate reality because, like I wouldn't want that to happen in this reality. But if it did, I'd understand, but I wouldn't want it to, you know what I mean? It was like a whole alien invasion, right? But, and this was beyond the ships. Like they look like you couldn't, I've never even seen a Hollywood movie where they've made something look that, like the details, just the amount of details that these ships had, right? But it was like that. It was like the whole sky was on fire from all the explosions going off. Like obviously people were trying to fight, like, or the government or whatever military was trying to fight. And so where I was at in a house, there were people there, and then there was a basement. So then I guess I just took the lead. I was like, all right, well, we can't stay in the basement because they're gonna come. It's only so long. We can't take a car because everyone's trying to escape right now, the highways. So I was like, boom, we're going on foot, And I just remember thinking in the dream, like, damn, I should have bought more like ammunition, right? Because I guess I had a gun, but I didn't have like, I only had a couple magazines, and I was like, shit, I need like, just to have them around, you know what I mean? And not that I'm all like oh, because I know people fight a lot about that. Oh, guns, no, we don't need guns and this and that. So I know that's a hot topic about like arguments, right? But it was just funny that when I woke up, that was still in my head, like shoot, and then I was like, oh shit, that was a dream. You know what I mean? That's how real it feels, in the amount of detail that's going on. And it was regular. We were in a house. It was almost like a gathering, and there were kids, everything. So after, when I was leading at least a group of like 20 people, like, all right, we got to get the hell out of here. But I was very calm and everything, so it was pretty interesting. I was very like, boom, like, oh, this is nothing, like I've been through this before, almost, like, kind of thing. So that's even funny, you know what I mean? And yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, it felt like an alternate reality. So go ahead.
That makes me think of so when was it? It was like back a while. There was a song, and it was around like the COVID time, and
Mm.
people were talking about like is it Armageddon? Is that like the whole like big thing? Talking about that, and like this was still, and I was getting like the paranoia and like connecting with that as like a reality. Um, and so what comes to me is, and I could like see it all and this and this and this. I feel like everything is happening already now once. Like there is that happening, and like feeling that and understanding that and knowing that as like truth. That's where like the paranoia, what I for me I figured out is like it there's some part of my soul that recognizes that as truth, but it doesn't connect with the reality, so there's that like disconnect, and so the body is like in that panic, fight, flight. Like I would freeze quite a bit. But yeah, that I feel like, have you uh, um like you're just hanging out in another timeline, like in your sleep, that is happening.
No, once it happened where I was conscious of it, like how you said, or walking almost. Like I woke up in this apartment and I was just like in boxers, and then I was like wearing almost like that. Like if you woke up drunk and you're like, oh shoot, what did I, who or what did I do? Like, what the hell am I doing? Like that, just all. And so I looked around, no one was in this apartment, and I saw a purse. So I grabbed or something I saw, and I went into the bathroom, and I was looking like for a wallet to see who the hell lives here. And then I heard them get home, and then they called out to me, and I was like trying to see their name, because I was like, I don't even know where the hell I am. And then it was like I was back in my body here, and I woke up, and just the feeling, I was like, that really just happened. Like there's no way that was just a dream. Like I literally just jumped from a body into another body. But then it makes me think, and who was in that body, and why did we switch real quick? Like how the hell did that? So that's what made me curious. I believe that I did it, but then where did that body go that was in that body? You know what I mean? Or was it just another version of me, and momentarily my conscious, since it was already another version of me in another timeline, are we able to just like boom, because that's me anyways, so I just woke up in that me, and then boom, I was back in this me. You know what I mean?
That stuff's fascinating, and I wonder like if there's like when those things come to us and stuff, if there's like reason. Well, okay, I don't think anything is coincidence or accidental, but like what the purpose is, if it's like relative to like stuff going on now, or like for healing or to look at, or I don't know. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I feel like everything's, that's why where the part, but see, like to me, when these things happen, because even one of my oldest, when I was still a teenager, right? It was like who I thought was God, this ancient spirit. Like I've never seen such an ancient spirit, like, because it used to come to me a lot when I was younger, but it was like we were almost like that, a dying planet. And back then I thought it was almost like all these souls were flying through the sky, like if there had been this big, like everyone was. But then now I think about it, well, what if that was all spaceship, like leaving the planet because it was dying, right? Something like that. And this ancient spirit was right here, and we were like in a cave, and everything was red. And now I think that it was another planet that kind of was dying, right? From, I don't know, wars or something, whatever happened, or just the planet, right? Maybe who knows? It was flying out of orbit or something. It got too close to the sun. I don't know what happened, right? But maybe a comet was about to hit it. Who knows? Like, or an asteroid, something. But what the hell was? Oh yeah, so I wasn't afraid. I'm never afraid in these situations, right? Damn, what was my point to all that? What did you say before? Why did I go on that little tangent? Like,
Um, talking about like kind of tapping into other aspects of ourselves,
oh
or
yeah,
like conscious.
I feel like they're merging, and that's the thing. But I don't get why. Like, what are they? If they're merged, like, it's weird. You know, like, why? Because yeah, so more and more people, like, you experience it, right? You experience a multi thing, right? Like, have you seen yourself then in other simultaneously like that? Like,
Yes, I feel like they don't seem like realities that are as much like this one. Um, I mean they do, but the other stuff going on is kind of more wonky.
hmm,
Um, but yeah, there's been some where what do I want to say? One that's coming to me recently is I don't know, there's been a few of those, but I happen to like find a mirror and stuff, and in some of them I'm still this person, and in other ones I like see someone else. And
hmm.
so I don't know, those are interesting. Those are mostly, and I don't know if you said yours was like in like a sleep experience, but those usually happen to me in those. And I find that in my dreams it's quite I've been having a lot where I'll like wake up in my bed, but it's not like in this reality or this timeline. And there's like other, and like you said, well, sometimes there's things that I'm experiencing. I'm like, oh no, I don't, yeah, I'm glad this is not mine. But just very, yeah. And there's other times when I'll like wake up. It's not really waking up, but from my sleep, I end up in the like this gray area where everything
Hmm.
is kind of like gray, black and white. And it's interesting the last time that happened, it's happened before, like, throughout that whole stretch. Um, and there was many times, like I was very fearful in those times. And there was something like on another bed one time sitting there, and like I was like crawling around and stuff like that. Actually like really like what you would call sexual desire, which I feel like in my dreams can tend to, for me, be like personified as like love, like wanting like love, if you will, like affection. But this being reminded me of like a demon, and then they brought me an article about like the true appearance of angels, which really is fascinating because it's not like the whole Cupid looking human with wings. It was like this being. And then actually the real appearance of angels, if you will, is actually quite more aligned with what you would maybe expect to see. Like when I see it, my mind goes to like, horror movies almost. So it's really interesting. But to me, that was like an angel in that space and other ones. But so this time in the grayscale, I was at and in my dreams, I don't know if it's astral, but I get taken back to like my other childhood houses quite a bit for things. And I don't know if that's like symbolism of like other home planets, places like that. But I woke up in that place, in that house, in the grayscale. And so this time I'm like, okay, I'm in my power. There's nothing to be fearful of. And so I just started if you will say like for me it's like floating, flying, and then all of a sudden the rain started, and then all of a sudden it's almost as though I was the rain. It was really interesting, but
No, that's awesome. I love it. So yeah, like now my mind's all well, yeah, because it's just the complexity of, like, see, it's almost like you start feeling like you have it figured out, and then all of a sudden, like, even this conversation just reminds me of how, like, damn, we don't know nothing in the great scheme of things. Even though as much knowledge as we learn, like, oh, I feel pretty confident, like, spiritually and everything like that. But then, yeah, who knows? Like, even when it gets to that, how many realities there are and this and that, like, damn, how much do I really know then if there's all these things happening at once, and why we choose to experience all these things, right? Or like how some people believe that it's really just all God experience in all these things trying to understand. What would be scarier to me is like if what if we're all extensions of the like a freaking supercomputer, because it's almost like a memory. Sometimes I think because that right when I have premonitions, it's almost like what if somewhere we're already like we're traveling through space. You know how in movies they put people like, oh, they're asleep for like 20 years while the spaceship was traveling so they don't grow old and die or whatever. So what if we're all in this deep sleep right now, traveling like across and all these things are just memories, right? Even this conversation, it already happened somewhere, like, because even that, like, how do I dream the future unless it already exists? So if it already exists, that means it already happened. That means what if we're just all like, traveling through space on this spaceship, or in this deep sleep, and all these lives we live out and everything, boom, it's because it already happened. So if we are remembering past lives and multiple realities because they already happened, like they had to have already happened, because that, right, like we've been around for millions of years already, like the existence of beings. And so I don't know if that got all weird or whatever, but
It just has my mind going. Like a couple things pop up for me lately. Um, like the term of like projecting consciousness has been popping up as far as like that is what we are, or like a possibility thing. Another thing, like I feel like at different moments, um, like the perspective has been given to me many ways. As far as like being what would be called a dreamscape. Um, like, this is all a dream, and then I also feel like the whole simulation, if you will, which also has me thinking more of like that projection thing, but also dreamlike. Um, and with the dreamscape, they impress upon like teamwork makes the dream work. So like
mm,
working together. And then I also, let's see, what are some other ones? I don't know. It's just like computerish comes to me, not necessarily AI, just in the sense of I guess I'm not I don't know, nothing's there. But yeah, I find at different like levels or spirals of, my experiences that things come at me in different ways. And there's times when, like this one, I finally got like, do you want to say a grasp of like what I'm doing and feel comfortable with this one, and then I'll go, and then this will come. And then like with what I'm doing, I try to do it from here with this together, but they're not meant to, and kind of what comes to me at a time. It's meant for me for what I'm supposed to understand in that moment. And also that the different, if you want to say perspectives, can also come from other like different guides or different aspects of your spirit team from their understanding and their perspective. And also that a lot of what we get here, like in the grand scheme of things, like what really is like, even in this sense we have this concept or understanding. But something that's come to me recently is a lot of this stuff is to help us um be at ease and enjoy and be present for this experience, so that we don't have the worry and anxiety and all that, so that we just, yeah, does that make sense?
no,
So
absolutely right. Like right as I had finished talking, like I started hearing like a voice, and it was saying like, just enjoy the ride. Like it kept saying that over, just enjoy it. So right now, exactly what you ended it with was what they were saying. Like that's it. Like how you said, we're all these things to experience and whatever. So I guess maybe all these gymnastics and mental gymnastics and loops we do in our head, and at the end of the day, we're just supposed to enjoy the ride. Like who knows? Like it's just all. But I know I keep we keep going off into other stuff. Did we ever get into the when we did, right? When you finished off when you decided to like go sober and all that stuff, right? We did close that, or
I feel like there was the car accident, and then within the next 2 months, I'll share a beautiful story just to kind of show how spirit does work. So okay, at that time, I was using the like the street opiates, and I had been talking with one of those places, if you will, about Suboxone because I wanted to do some Suboxone therapy to get off. And then okay, so let's see, they ordered me one, but to do it, like they had to order it and have it come in. And
Mm.
so it's all about like, I was trying to avoid withdrawal, but you have to stop like what at least well with these like the blues that I was doing, I think it's longer than actual like heroin. I think it had needs to be like a full 2 to 3 days. So it's longer than normal before you start the Suboxone. So I was always trying to like time it so that I could keep using it up until like the Suboxone therapy. Um, and so because there was a thing of like withdrawal, use, withdrawal, use. So I was almost if I used, I was like obsessive with getting more and didn't have the means, and then I was in withdrawal and just wanted more. So it was this thing. And so with this doctor, like I got some Suboxone. They had to order it. So when it came in, they told me to tell me it was in. So that next day, and I had been planning on that. So I was going in the next day to start it. And I had to be there for the whatever time so they could monitor me. I go in the next day. The doctor is gone for the week.
Mm.
Because of something, and no one else there could administer it. And I
Oh
was
wow.
so mad. Because I had built it up. I was like, this is the day my life is gonna change. I'm gonna, be done with drugs, all this and this. And my first thought, just like it had been always, was screw this, I'm gonna go use. Um and so I was talking to like the receptionist, and she goes, well, I think, you can go to the ER and they'll do him.
Oh.
Well, I didn't want to go and do all that stuff. So I called the ER, and of course they don't say like yes or no. So I didn't do that, and I just um I it was like the opportunity, like spirit saying, "Do you really want this?" And also helping me without me seeing it, because this doctor also wanted me to go on to the what is it? Like the Suboxone therapy. Like that wasn't the plan
Mm.
before, but she wanted me to join the thing that like comes in once a month, you get tested, and then they like do all that, like the whole thing of it. And I realized like throughout my life, I have had the addictive, humans are ingrained with it, but the addictive personality, it came from like, you know, codependency, drugs, alcohol, relationships. I even in my clean stretch got onto kratom. And so I realized
Yeah.
that Suboxone was just another thing. Um, Another habit, more so than the actual like effect of it, but just the habit of um like a dependency, a codependency on something that I put value in for making me feel better, whether it actually helped me and was productive in, my growth or not. So, and that was like another month away, like 3 weeks, month away. So I was just like, I was mad. I was really pissed. And so what I actually did is I went and I used my last money to buy a Suboxone from the streets. And then it was actually yeah, so and then it was my birthday, and I ended up getting in touch with another buddy who actually came, and then we did use and smoke, and it was actually around that time when I got that download of spiritual. And so that is when I stopped using, and it was the first time in my ever clean stretches that I quit while I still had like a sack.
Oh wow.
Um, so my dog's barking.
Mm.
So yeah, that's how that was. And then because in that download, I got this thing about in there somewhere about the spirituality, but there were stretches from there when I was really, really tested. And I realized the other times I was clean also, I still did like numbing and distracting habits, such as like what is it, like compulsive shopping, or when I had the craving to use or something, I'd go drive, I'd go buy stuff, I'd go do this and this. So I might have quit the drugs, but I never really healed the issue. Um, and so in this space from, that my birthday on, it was I well, with not having my license at that time from the wreck, I wasn't able to just go and do stuff. Another way spirit showed up for me, along with the doctor with the Suboxone, because I didn't go on the Suboxone therapy, or that'd be another thing. And so all these things that were so frustrating was really spirit, like, seeing the big picture and me having this vision of being clean and continuing going through with each step. And so in this space, it was very interesting. I say interesting. It really helped me sit there in my feelings, let the things come up, look into myself. And that was like the beginning of my intensive healing journey and really getting into my mind and understanding. And I got this thing about like generational trauma and all this. And I didn't quite grasp it at the time. And I'm still not sure exactly entirely how that works on the whole scale of things, except
Mm.
for, like being the breaking the cycles. But I had such cravings one time. And instead of changing my focus and doing that, I sat there with it. And I guess that's, like the gap. Instead of distracting myself in that sense, at that moment, I sat with it. And I had like these kratom pills still in my house. And I was looking at them for like hours. And I was just like, I know. And before, with relapses, I'd sit there and like, oh, it's just this. Oh, what's the worst that can happen thing? But here I was really honest with myself, and I was just like, I know if I take this, um, I could see it all. I'm just like, I really don't want that. I don't like. I'm tired of that. Um, and so I just sat there and I looked at him, and this whole time I'm just like, I have a playlist going, and the angels in my spirit team are like throwing me all these love songs, like, and I see the lights flashing and stuff, and I'm just like, damn. But and the thing that, in my near-death experience, something that I came across in newspapers as I was like going through these things is something clicked about, like I saw this like laser of lights around, in the sense that my family was like trapped in this. At that time I thought it was like a spell. And so that's what really like, what's not about me, but like my family and those I cared about, like that's always been like my, I don't know if I want to say trigger, but like my passion, like what's a big drive of mine. And so that like got that going for that experience. And then this day I was sitting there, and part of the things I was talking about is like it came up about the, generational trauma and family and all that. And I realized that it's not just me. And so I didn't use them that day. And since then, I've never really had cravings, like urges, I should say. Um, any cravings that have come up, I've realized like the emotion and stuff that triggers those. And also, it's interesting, and I want to put this because it's coming up. When I'm out in public and now these days, I can like feel that from other people.
Wow.
Like when I was at the airport and leaving, I could like the person walking by, like enjoying their cigarette after that long flight, I could like feel how much they were enjoying it. Because I was
Wow.
like, wow, I don't, because I smoked from like 17 till I even quit that too that year. So yeah, I quit that, I quit caffeine, I quit everything. Um, so after that day, yeah, they just kind of took that away from me. And I realized that one of my toxic traits was thinking that I wasn't hurting anyone. Like I felt that me using all these things was only hurting myself and didn't affect other people. Didn't affect the people that cared for me and this. And even now on an energetic level, I see how like everything is connected and every little thing matters, every choice, because this is the only moment. And so those have been very eye-opening for me. So,
Absolutely. No, and you just made me think of something too. Like I know even that, it's tough because like I want to share about my experiences, but sometimes since they are connected to things I went through with others, like, but I guess I don't want, like, I wouldn't know. Like sometimes it's like, damn, I don't know if someone from my past will feel comfortable with me having had said that, and I feel bad about that even, so I know as I go forward, I have more remorse in that way. Like, shit, I want to share this story about things that went because I feel it'll help people. But then there's like that thing, like I wonder if like this person, not that they'll ever hear this, but who knows? Maybe they'll hear it and then they're gonna be like, oh shit, like, like I don't want people like, you know what I'm saying? Even though I never say someone's name or nothing like that. Just like, I don't know, I wouldn't know, you know what I mean? If they're on that same journey of knowing like, hey, well, yeah, if this is valuable and it'll help someone else, go ahead and say it. Like, who cares? But so I noticed that even as I continue, I feel remorseful in that way of like, shit. Like, I don't know, I feel bad, like, but I'm trying, it's from a good place, right? Like, I'm not saying it to like, because I don't have any ill feelings towards anyone because I understand that it was all part of a journey, for sure. So I don't have any ill feelings towards anything I went through with anybody. You know what I mean? So I did. So let's like obviously, right? Like you have no what is it called? Reservations about saying like you're psychic, right? So like what kind of things do you experience psychically aside from like the empath stuff where you feel? Like what kind of things do they like? Clearly, like you said, you hear the voices, right? Like all that stuff.
When I try to like differentiate, it kind of throws me for a loop. Um, but definitely about like the reading energy, I find that I hear thoughts. And aside from just well, I know you said the feeling, and it's interesting, like when I think of empathically, to me, it's more than just like being able to like connect or like feel for what you're sharing, but I actually like will feel your aches and pains. I will like feel the actual feelings you are having. I will like have the same food cravings you are having. Just very much like almost as though I like take that on, if you will. I don't like the way that felt when I said that. But the way I take that is that I have a bunch of water in my chart, and that's like the feeling and the like being able to like very fluid. And so I find that for me is being able to like know what you're saying, how you're feeling or thinking, and what you're not saying by like looking at you, watching you, hearing you, and just so yeah, I mean it's like feeling, but in a like deeper sense. Like I know if it's the truth, I know if it's not. And then psychically, I mean I guess that's the same. Um my mind's not going anywhere else right now.
No, you're good. So let me ask you this: do the moons, since you have a lot of water in your chart, like did this new moon affect you in any interesting ways?
1, 2, 3, 4 right now. The full moons, I always like 2, 3 days before will see all the energies around. It's like they just like if I'm not sure there's a full moon, I'm like, oh, okay, you guys are here. Yeah, there's like, the energy's heightened. Um, I do sense that around the full moon. New moons, I find, I guess I don't know have like words or a way to articulate it, but I find for me, if you want to say change or stuff like that, usually tends to happen around the new moon. So,
Yeah, good. Oh, good, good.
like not specific experiences, but just like shifts in my life.
Absolutely. No, I had a big shift, like, just within these last couple of days. And it was weird because I was up in my head about it. And I was like, and then I was like, oh, it's a freaking new moon. Like, so that kind of helped me. But I was like, why is it affecting me that much? Like, why am I stuck? There was a choice to make. And then, it's not super life altering, but it is like going in a certain direction and committing to something. So I was like, damn, am I that afraid of? I mean, I commit to things all the time. It's like this commitment. Why am I not? You know what I mean? Like, why? And it was like it had to do with like business stuff, right? And signing a contract even. And I was just like, what's good? Why am I traumatized by contracts? Like, what is it? And all I could think about like spiritual contracts. Like I would like have all these spiritual contracts left me so traumatized that I'm like, I don't want to sign shit. Like I don't, like nothing. I was just like, I don't want to. And so I was hesitant about it. Like, I know this isn't a bad thing. I know this is a good thing, but I just didn't want to sign that damn I just didn't want. I was stubborn. I was like, I don't want to sign that thing. but there's no way around it. You know what I mean? So it was weird. I was faced with that, and it was bothering me. It had me really like bothered, and I was trying to understand why. But I was like, what is this little new moon? So I was curious if anyone else was experiencing something like,
You know, it's funny that you talk about like the commitment thing, because that's something that's been showing up for me too. And kind of in a different scale. So like in more my day to day, like creating, do I want to say a schedule or like committing to like like practicing like so many days a week, like, you know, to something like commitments to myself, if you will. But in the sense that like following through, and even in my like, if you want to call it mantras or like my incantations, like promising, like, you know, one I did was I promised to protect my inner child innocence. And when I said that, I was like, wait, did I just like make a contract? Like, do I want to do that? And I said, wait, it's me, it's my inner child. Of course I want to protect her, but why does this feel like icky, you know? Like,
mm,
and it's just like, and so yeah, it's interesting. Something about commitments. I've been feeling that too. And
mm,
also in the sense of how like perhaps that's why I try to have in some ways kept like my, I don't know if I want to say schedule, but like my goals and such vague, because I haven't necessarily like committed to something, or like, you know, the thing that um something's coming to me is about so psychically, because one thing I can also do is like feel out and see timelines and stuff like that, is that, and this is also, well, I'll get there in a second, um that I can feel like the energy and how big, and like this, if you want to say success or completion, achievement that can come through like following this and doing this, to
mm,
where there's like that whatever subconscious fears or like self sabotage part like there, that like does the thing to like no commit, and then you think it's the commitment, but it's actually like sensing that on the other side. And it's like yeah, because even just the other day I went to sit down for like a little project task, and all of a sudden I felt like so overwhelmed, and then I was just like, oh my gosh, like why does this feel so big? I'm just gonna sit here and like fill out some note cards. And it came to me because I can feel like how big, if you want to say the energy, or how much this can grow to through like doing this and continuing to work and like following it through and letting it build. And that was eye-opening, because I've always felt this way when I go to do tasks. And so it really, yeah, just break it down. But yeah, that's powerful, like a powerful download that came to me.
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, because yeah, there were so many things like right now you made me think too. Like it was like, what was I afraid that I wasn't gonna be able to follow through with this? Because obviously it was like one of those things, like more responsibility too, right? With obviously, right? You're like coming into an agreement with somebody that you're gonna, hold your end of a bargain too, kind of thing. And so it's like, damn, am I? But obviously it pushes you to do more. So obviously it's not but it's funny that mentally it's like, so what's the real trauma there? That's what I was trying to think. Like, is it me thinking that I'm not gonna, or later on, like, or I think that, right? I love being free so much, like free. I literally have a tattoo that says "Live free or die." Like that's been like my thing. You know what I mean? Forever. So freedom to me is like one of the most important things. So I hate feeling like anything that obligates. I mean, I'll do it anyways, but I just don't like that, right? So I don't know if that was I was going doing the whole mental gymnastics about that, like yeah. So okay, so I know, damn, we went all over the place. So is there anything else that we haven't touched on, like that you want to add or anything before?
um I don't know, the words love yourself keep popping up, but other than that, mm-mm.
And so, well, let's touch on that then. Loving yourself, like, do you feel you're in a space where you're completely like you're able to put? I mean, obviously, right? We always feel like, oh, saying you put yourself first is like has that negative connotation or whatever, but obviously it's not. Because if you love yourself, then, you know, I think you're able to give that love to others better, right? Because if you don't love yourself, then obviously you have a harder time loving others. So do you feel you're in that space now? Like, have you, yeah?
I do. Yeah. It's been a fun ride. You know, when I started this journey, I had like a vision, you know, years before I got clean, like a year before I got clean. Um, and this like knowing that when I became the best version of myself, that I'd like meet the man for me. And I was still very much like ingrained in like romantic relationships at that time. And so that is what like started getting me in the thought process of like more and like relationships and stuff to here. But what I realized along the journey is that the person like that my self-love journey, or I should say my in my quest for my mate, is that I found myself, and that it was always myself that I was looking for.
No.
And so I very much like you said, if you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else? And not like we can, and like unconditionally without well, unconditionally, I want to say like without restrictions, without expectations, that's the word. um because yeah, a lot of it reminds me of the like the thing about picking a flower. When you see something you like a flower, you pick it. When you see something you love, you water it. And so a
Mm.
lot of relationships, well, this is from my experience, and well, I guess just anyways, yeah, like you know, when we are whole, when we don't love ourselves, we are always seeking for that outside of ourselves. And so when you if you have two people seeking that outside of themselves who come together, they're gonna, you know, only find themselves happy if that is validated from the other person. And so when people's, you know, there's the honeymoon stuff, but when things start getting real, when someone is no longer like giving you the attention or energy that fills that part of you, then you start like clashing, you know. Where am I going with this? And so that's when, you know, a lot of things break up. Anyways, I'm not sure
No,
where
no,
that
this is good
goes,
because I
but
forgot that that Valentine's Day is coming up too. So right now,
oh,
as you're
that's
saying all
true.
this, I'm like, oh, that's funny that we're talking about all this. Like now that we circled around to like relationship stuff, because no, you know that's a really good point you made because right now, even as you were saying that, it came to me how like for example, like I always feel I'm good at communicating, right? Like even especially in relationships, like I'll be very communicative, but if someone else doesn't communicate, and you know, I don't know if it's just differences, right? Obviously, I know 100% like men and women we're different, right? We're biologically different. So I know we all want to get to that point spiritually where we're like on the same level spiritually and this and that, but just well, we're in these suits, human suits, we do have different like ideas and feelings even, right? All that stuff. So like for example, I was never someone that was jealous. But then sometimes like that, right? If I was with someone and it's almost like they will purposely, I guess, to get attention, but just because I wasn't giving attention didn't mean almost like if someone tries to make you jealous or like I don't know where I'm going with that. Actually, now I'm like, I don't even want to talk about that because I think it brought up like a negative memory for some reason because I felt my mood changed. So yeah, so maybe, but I don't know. Well, I don't know. It's not that I'm sure these people love themselves, but those kind of things become weird to me. I don't know. But I guess I guess maybe it's just an age thing, right? As you get older, you start like it just experiences teach you like that's not a good thing to do. This is not a good thing to do. I don't know. I don't even know what the hell I was trying to. It just came to
what
me. Go ahead.
something that keeps popping up for me is like back to the so like the more you're in a relationship, like as people, we're always healing from things and we always have like things to go inward about. And so when we get triggered from things, be it the other person or things around us, then we can like respond or react from that wounded place. Um, and a lot of times if we don't understand that that's inner wounding, or have the emotional like regulation and stuff like that, then we project that onto our partner. And then that's where like kind of the disconnect comes in, and you start like at each other when it's your own things being surfaced within you. And so when we don't feel that void is like hand puppet.
Hey, it's
When
fine.
we don't feel like that void or that part of us that we wanted to be filled from someone else is being filled anymore, that's a lot of times when like people will try to feel that outside of the relationship. And then this person thinks it's them personally, but it all has to do with like that inner self, the inner child, the wounding and stuff, just trying in the way it knows best to feel that, to feel better. So that's where like, doing that healing work and understanding where your wounds are and that stuff. And for me, that's learning to love yourself, to see yourself fully. Um, because there is all this stuff within a person. And, yeah.
No, no, I would listen because I was like, you communicated that a lot better than the way I was trying to communicate, but you said it perfectly. See, you're good at all the love stuff. So that was for anyone listening. I'm sure they understood perfectly like what you were saying. And see, I think that's good. Like with all the water stuff, you know what I mean? Because I know my interactions with water signs, like they are able to tap into the emotions, right? Right. So it's good. It's good. I think I was taught just not to be. I had to learn like to be more emotional or all that stuff, right? Because I guess since you're little, you're taught, or at least in my walk, I was taught to be more like less emotional. And then after, being around water signs, then I was like, like, wow, you're like a ball of emotions like that. And then, I would want to be compassionate. And then you start like, okay, let me tone down this, right? Like, or whatever. So that's cool. So yeah, no, so any other things like before, like we go or anything like that? Or... Oh, so
Um,
what do you plan to do like going forward, right? Like so you have your YouTube channel, are you posting more on that now or
I kind of took a hiatus. Was called to just kind of have like my winter season. So I'm in the space where I want to branch back out, connect with people, and so I'm really feeling guided more towards Facebook. And I have a
oh,
Facebook page. Well, I have all my social media, Keshia Santero, um, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. But so yeah, I'm excited to step back out and I'm not quite sure what that looks like, but um, we'll see. I feel very called to, offering guidance, coaching, healing, and venturing into the art industry, music.
oh, beautiful. Yeah, yeah, beautiful, absolutely. Um, had you been involved in it before, or you're just looking forward to like going into like how you said the art, music, all that?
Uh, Really, just this is my year of like awareness and discovery. So I'm just being free and flowing. I'm really not sure what will come. But I hear big things.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. That's funny because after, when I heard that thing, that the voice that said enjoy, just enjoy the ride, I realized after that I recognized the voice. And that was like, because, I had a friend that passed away last year. Like it was in January, but, his funeral was on 2/16, which is in a couple of days. My whole book, I wrote a book called 2/16 because that's the day my brother like passed away too. So, and then see, it keeps, no matter what, it keeps coming up. And it was funny that because my friend passed away in January of last year, but they didn't have the funeral all the way till 2/16, like I think more than a month after, they didn't have the funeral till then. So it was crazy that out of all days, that number, I remember after his funeral too, I had all this anxiety, probably just because he's not that day is just crazy. But it was his voice though. All that to say, it was his voice right now because he would talk like that, really like laid back. And so right now, it was him saying like just enjoy it. Right? So that's
Do
funny.
you experience much? Would you consider that mediumship?
Yeah, I mean, like it's just they're there, like the other, like when I was telling you, I don't know if I said it before we started the thing, but like how now I've been doing it more, right? Where people's relatives are coming through,
Mm.
like So the other day it was someone's dad, and it's just not scary at all. Like I'm just tripping. Like if I would have known it wasn't scary like that, I would have been doing it forever, right? But sometimes it's like maybe just because one night I was laying down and I just started seeing so many people, like it, and it's like in your mind's eye. I just saw, vroom, I was like, nah, nah. So my friend taught me that. My friend, she's been doing it forever, I guess. She said she literally does it like that, like a open and close, right? Like nope, like or hitting a light switch, like nope, I'm off right now, so don't bother me, and it works. So I tried that, and it feels like it works. Like I'm like nope, like not right now, because I just seen so many people. So yeah, it doesn't feel invasive. It's like I'm just the way I'm seeing you, but I see it in here. Like that's it. Like I mean, I don't know if you experience the same thing, like with that. Like I'll hear that, or if I hear the voices, it's not like they're not yelling in my ear, nothing like crazy. It's just like they just talk.
For me, since you said that, it seems to come through more as like a feeling or like a knowing. Like when I talk about intuition, for me, I envision like an instrument, and every time I get like an intuitive nudge, it's like a string is plucked.
Oh.
And so like it's interesting when like, almost sometimes it plays a song, but when all my eyes drawn to like a picture of someone or an area of the room, and then I like hear ding or someone's talking about someone, then it comes to me in that sense.
Oh wow. Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. So you don't see like the visuals or
Um, visuals is something that has been coming more to me. What's really interesting, so I find I see things more like with my physical eyes, like at night, when I'm looking around the room and such, I'll see the same thing with my eyes open when I close my eyes. It's easier for me in the dark, and I get that I can train that for my daily eyes, my day eyes, the sunlight. um, so I say vision is something that's more to be practiced on more. Hmm, I don't know. I've been seeing energies, yeah, since this whole time. To me, it's interesting how since my vibration has raised, um, the way they appear has changed. Because back then it would be like if you've seen the movie Hollow Man, how when he's invisible, you
oh
can
yeah.
like almost like that gas type outer appearance. I'd also literally see them appear to me in like that white, transparent, ghostly
Mm.
apparition. That's when I was at more of a lower vibration. Now that I'm at a higher, my guides and such will, flicker, sparkles, and colors, and then I'll feel them. But at night, a lot of times I'll see them like swirling around, and then like their eyes will come up to me. Um, so it's really interesting. And so it's curious you asked that because now more in sense of mediumship. It's something newer for me, or that I guess is coming newer to my awareness. So yeah.
Yeah, no, no, I'm embracing it. Now I feel like I wouldn't even know if I would want to do it like as a job, right? Like if people like I guess if it was coming to me overwhelmingly, then it'd be like, all right, like, but I haven't really controlled it. Like it kind of just comes, right? Like it comes. Like once I was talking to somebody, and then their mom came through, and I was just like, I just said it, right? And so that's the thing. I trust it when as crazy, sometimes you're like, man, when it happens, it's still like, wow, it's just mind boggling to me. I'm like, wow, this really just happened. Like I just said it. I saw it. I see it, and then I'm just saying it. Blue, blue. Like, oh, I see a man. He looks like this. His hair is this color. I see him doing this. Boo, boo, boo. And someone like, oh, I know like who that is. Like, whoa, what? Like, wow, that's insane. So yeah. But yeah, I was gonna say something else, but I forgot completely. But no, that's cool. So yeah. So I guess we'll end it there, unless there's any last thing you want to say. Okay. So it's been a delight. Thank you so much. I know I really enjoyed the conversation. I don't know if we're gonna lose people with all the stuff we were talking about, but I love the conversation. I'll put all your links to all your information, and
Heck yeah.
this year too, I really want to start doing live. So if you ever have any kind of downloads and you want to go live, we'll put it so I haven't done it yet, so I really don't know how it links. Like, I don't know if it comes out on both YouTube channels simultaneously, but that way people can ask questions. If people have any questions, like, maybe they're starting to experience psychic things for the first time, or this or that, or anything, right? So if you're ever open for that, like, I want to start doing more lives too, so people could interact this year. So that's my little thing this year, like, trying to do that. So
yeah, thank you for so much for having me. And there's very much something, whether it's like live or live, that keeps popping up to me as well. And I get that as far as channeling, when you have like a source to channel to, like rather than having it all up in here, things, can move and make more sense, or
yeah.
like growth understanding. I guess it's in the doing of the understanding.
I don't know, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I
So
like that. So to let you feel these things through other parts of your body as well, then, like, is that what you're?
I just get, so the way I interpret it for me as it comes is that if I like sit here and like do a conversation with you, or was to do a live, whether it's guidance channeling or just conversation, but to be able to see the like be the conduit, like the hollow bone, kind of allow the space for spirit to come through,
Oh, okay, yeah,
if that makes sense.
yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, and I think that's what it would be, because that, right, like, let's say, because obviously I see that's how other, like, mediums do it or stuff like that, right? It's like they're just holding the space, and boom, someone's relative comes through, or someone's this, or someone's that, or from spirit, right? Like, it's just like, bam, okay, this is the message. And yeah, I guess that's what I've learned, to just be more trusting and don't have the ego to block it. Like, nah, this is crazy, because someone always seems to, like, even this conversation, right? Like that, me saying, like, I know we jumped all over, but I'm sure whoever's meant to get something out of it is going to get something out of it, right? So it's always going to connect with somebody 100%.
And I find interesting you say that. When so it keeps coming to me that I do more channeling than I realize. And in those shares, do you ever have those shares where you talk and you feel like you jumble around, and at the end you're like, did I even make sense? I find myself asking, did that make sense? Because I'm like, it feels like I said, like, things from like 5 different, to where in my head I'm like, what did I even say? And not in the sense that I know I was channeling, but like I feel like I just like word vomited,
No,
And to
yeah.
me, that's coming back more as like that's actually like, channeling. And so
No, absolutely. Yeah. So the last thing there, like, I just posted a video, and I wanted to delete it so bad, like on YouTube. I posted a video because, yeah, I was just sharing about how I had this experience, right? This extinct bird came to me in the dream, and all this information it gave after I looked it up, and it was all real. So it was amazing to me. It's just like, how is that possible? It's like, if you get the stuff from the library in the sky kind of thing, right? Like, it's all accurate. But it was funny, since we're talking about like alternate realities, because everything was opposite. So in real life, this bird couldn't fly, but in this vision, it came in flying. It didn't have a lot of feathers. It was kind of just like plain. It even had like a bald head kind of thing or something. And then in the dream, it had all these lush, beautiful feathers. In real life, it didn't. It only had like, it was either painted like brownish or grayish. But in the dream, it was all these beautiful rainbow colors. Like, so everything, it was there, but it was opposite. And then it came and it shapeshifted. And the two of them turned like into two women. And then they wanted to eat. So I made them, and they just wanted one egg. So when I made them the egg, when I researched it, they would only lay one egg. So it's like, how is it possible? And then I mixed the egg with vegetables, and they were vegetarian. So like, this is too much. Like, how? I never thought of, the dodo bird. Have you ever heard of the dodo bird? Yeah, so that's the one that came. And in the dream, I was excited. I was with somebody. Like, look, dodo birds. I was so happy. And I was just like, I never looked up the dodo bird. I knew I had seen it in a cartoon or something, and I knew the name, but everything was just the opposite. And then in the dream, they weren't trusting, because after it shape shifted, I guess the woman, it still had the flowing thing, and I went to touch it, and she kind of backed up, and I was like, "Oh, sorry." I don't know if in my head I thought it was good luck, or it was just because it looked soft. And then in real life, they say that's part of the reason they went extinct, because when the sailors got to that island, the only island they lived on, they would run up. That's why they gave it the name Dodo, because Dodo means stupid, right? Dodo meant like it's Portuguese for like dumb or something. And so this bird went extinct because of its trusting. But it wasn't bad. They didn't have nothing to work on the island. There were no like cats that would eat it, no nothing. That's why they say it never evolved to having wings, because they didn't need to fly away from nothing. They didn't need to run from nothing. It was just, you know what I mean? So it was funny that in real life it was, or in this life, I don't know real life, but in this life it was too trusting, and in the spirit world or this vision, it wasn't trusting. So everything was just backwards. So it was just a mind-blowing thing. I really don't know why. Maybe just confirmations. I don't know why they really brought me that message. I even thought, I was like, are they trying to tell me to not be so trusting now? Because I'm gonna go extinct like the freaking dodo. Because that is a problem. I am too trusting. Like I gave the example in that video of a professor told us once, you all have A's in the class. All you got to do is keep it. And I was like, what? I got an A. Oh shoot, I'm not. And I kept the A, right? So that's how I treat people. When I meet people, everyone starts with an A, and it's up to you to keep it. You got an A. I don't give a shit what you did. If you did all this stuff in your life and you're this or that, I don't care. You treat me good, then you got an A with me. And then it's up to you if you keep it, right? But see, I don't know if this dream was timely going forward, starting this year, like, hey, the dodo bird went extinct. If you don't want to go extinct, like, know your boundaries. You have boundaries, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It's just a lot to unpack, right? Like, so I don't know. Okay, and there, I'll shut up. Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I just brought up something else for me. So this is something that my dog has helped teach me about boundaries and, I guess taking time to get to know someone. And I was even thinking about this last night about like, and speaking your truth in this, like I very much I call myself an open book. I'm open to sharing any experience in this and this because I mean, I don't know, no shame, no guilt. Like and then there's sometimes, and this is in the past, when it's like, oversharing.
Yeah.
And then so what comes to me is like, there's like layers into which you dip into things. And the way they showed me was actually like like a dating scenario. When you meet someone for the first time and you're on a date. Well, also they're different situations, whether you're meeting someone for business or a date, or if you're just sitting next to someone on a bus, like that whole environment, the vibe, like, kind of changes it. But say on a date where you have the intention to connect, to get to know each other, and like you share, each thing on this layer, and then if they align, then you choose to go on another date to share more on the other layer if they align. And so it's like layer, 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 rather than sitting there on the first date and like, listen, this is my suitcase, let me unpack it all, like, are you in or not?
That's funny.
But yeah. So
no, but see that, so I feel that like, so maybe I overshare sometimes, but I know it's like, but the same, like that was my whole thing, like why it reminded me of that when I forgot what you said, but it was like, because after I even made that video, I wanted to delete it. Like, I was like, damn, what am I? Because after I think I shared about the bird, but then I went off into another thing, and I was like, oh, like, should I delete it? Is that too much? Like, did I overshare? Stuff like that. So yeah. So yeah. Okay. So on that, we'll end it there, because if not, we're gonna, something.
right.
So
Okay.
it's been an honor. Yeah, if you can, just send me all the links, and then I'll put them in the description and all that good stuff.
Okay.
Oh, and a picture for the thumbnail, please. I always forget that. So yeah, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay, awesome. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he'd make it slow. We look up out towards space, screaming at the sky. One day pass away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is a maze, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. feel this way forever.
feel this way